Hello subscribers or future followers, it is Dynamic Gaming or aka Imperial Strike here, bringing you another amazing video, and today we're talking about Injustice 2, the brand newest characters that just got released, the Turtles. So I've been playing with them a little bit just to level them up so I could have 4 different spaces so I could actually work with all 4 different turtles. I'm going to be making a video based off of each turtle. It won't be a long one, but just showing whether it be a gap or possible conversions that most people don't really think about for some reason. So to start this one off, the first question that I've been seeing people really wonder whenever they first get the turtles is, oh hey, how do I switch between them? Because when you first get them, all of the layouts are all Leo. If you look in the gear section, the very last spot, so in this case if I was to press square like I have done, in this loadout, you will see the very last gear piece on the bottom says Trained Trainees Ninja Swords. If you actually end up instead going to your customized characters area, you can change that slot to different weapons, and each weapon is what dictates the turtle. So if I put on nunchucks, it becomes Mikey. If I become a bow staff character, it becomes Donatello. That's basically how it ends up working. For this video, I'm going to start off though having Leo and say, yeah, might as well just show off Mikey. Now granted, I did put on some gear, some stuff I got for free, basically. It was given to me, you know. Not the greatest, but at least it's something. Anyway, so we have the Turtles finally out today. Now as you can see, most of the turtles, they all look the same, move the same. The only difference is going to be weapons and maybe some standing animations. Yes, Mikey did his really cool one, I love it. As we can see here, I'm playing as Leonardo first. The first thing I want to talk about is what exactly they all share that is the same. So they talk about this in the stream as well, that many of the turtles have the same type of strings, and when I say the same type, they have starting parts of the same strings. So for example, every turtle has this square square string, which can also be followed up with square square triangle. That's completely the same across the board with every single turtle. But then they also have a same string when it comes to button inputs. So if I was to press the, and I'm playing on PS4, so I'm going to start using numbers for everyone that's out there. If I was to end up playing as Leo, every single turtle has a variation of 2 strings actually. The button inputs are triangle, square, and X. What is then dictated for each turtle is the direction that you push afterwards. So for Leo, he actually has this string in 3 different areas, and each one does something different. He has one that ends up ending in a low attack. So if I press 2, 1 into a down 3 all at the same time, I get this string which ends in a low. The mix up here with with Leonardo, sorry, is that if I end up changing the directional input and I press up, I then get an overhead attack. Now most people are probably thinking, oh, that's not that useful, you know, it's a nice little bounce up and what? I can only follow it up with probably nice little shell-shocked attack. Well, you're somewhat right, but what people don't think about when it comes to these little pop-ups are the possibilities that can be done whenever a character is in the corner. Instead of this now being just some type of mindless launcher that barely does not even 200 damage, you now can break almost 300 damage meterlessly if you end up correctly using strings. So, for example, if I was to go, I believe it's triangle first, yep. So if I go into this, oop, dropped it that time. As you can see though, I could follow up with a down 1 instead of just another attack. So if you wanted to, you could go down 1, and Leo's special like abilities when it comes to special moves, every turtle has this dive kick, every turtle has this like throwing their shell at you overhead attack, and every turtle has this like shell-shocked, almost full screen mid that ends up hitting you, that you can meter burn as well. So when it comes to the up-close game though, Leo does have 2 different special moves than the rest of the turtles. He has a very similar swipe to what Robin has, that is a uppercut, but it's not as fast as Robin's, and if you meter burn it, it doesn't always lead to a full combo. It can get you some damage, but you can get more damage in the corner like so, just as an example, if I do somehow get this. That'd be a short little conversion that you can get. Over time, I'm betting the conversions will get better. I'm just doing the basic ones so that people understand other ways to convert with their characters. So in this case, in the corner, if I do use this uppercut off of the original string that I was talking about, which is this, I can actually end up linking it or end up just canceling. Instead of using this, I can possibly land a down 2 while they're popped up in the air. So for example, that would look like this. Oop, didn't get it. Still didn't get it. Almost got it that time. Almost got it that time. Yep, it looks like I may not be able to get the first couple tries here. But the goal here is to end up launching the turtle back up in the air, or at least Mikey back up in the air, so after I end up hitting him, I can end up following up for another little bit of a combo. It is possible, I'm just struggling with it as of right now because, you know, new characters always get released. Stuff like that is bound to happen. But another way that you could do it, and this is the one that is a little bit more simple and easier to hit, is if you do the same string and in the corner you have the uppercut with Leo. Whoop, there we go. You can then follow up for a full combo. Now what's crazy about the turtles is if you get any of your opponents into the corner, and this works across the board, this overhead shell that they end up having, down back 3, this move is called bombshell. You can control which side that you can land on when it comes to this overhead. So if I want to, I don't have to hit them on this side of their face. I can actually hit them on the reverse side, and it becomes a cross-up. Now at first glance it's like, oh okay, well that's not much damage, whatever. The thing is that with this certain move, you can meter burn this so that it completely launches. And then you again get a full combo from it. Now granted, you can use whatever full combo that you want, but for me personally, I've been doing something like this. Now, of course, I ended up dropping that last bit, and that last bit was the next special move that is different that Leo has that the other turtles do not. Leo has a back forward 2 where he ends up pulling out his swords, and it's called Shredded. Multiple hitting attack, can break armor if you read it in time, but it's very unsafe on block. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was Leo's playstyle. We obviously see that Leo is a character just like the rest of the turtles where he has a good mix-up of overheads and lows. He has the mix-up strings between the, you know, different types of low and overhead mix-ups like the rest of the turtles. But the other thing that he has that the other turtles do not is he has this different type of footsie game, and footsies are what is considered like a neutral game, what he's able to do from different ranges. So as of recently, I would say that Leo is probably one of the best turtles of the 4, only because of the way that he's able to play when it comes to the neutral game. He has an amazing fast projectile that he can throw out basically at any time during the match because it reloads so fast. It's a pretty decent one. You can't spam it, so it's not like you're gonna outzone people like Dr. Fate, etc. But if you're facing certain characters, just this projectile alone will catch people whenever they try to jump, or if they also have a lunging attack that ends up, you know, making them think for a minute, should I end up using this? The next move I want to talk about is the trait in general, obviously. So if you press forward and trait button, which is 4 or circle for the PS4 users, Raphael throws the size. Back and circle, Mikey comes out for a very fast low. This one is interesting though, because it is very fast, yes, and you cannot cancel anything from it. Sorry, I did Donatello there on accident. It's very fast, and you can't necessarily combo anything from it, but up close it becomes a mix-up, and here's why. The regular function, so just pressing circle by itself, Donatello comes in and he has an overhead attack. Now this overhead takes forever to recharge if you see it at the bottom of the screen. The reason why is for 2 reasons. One, even if my opponent blocks this overhead, I am still plus on block. I get to push buttons, I can move before my opponent can move. The other thing is that if they do get hit by it, it's a full combo launcher, meterless, and you can do it off of any combo string. So I can do it off of 1-1, which is a low. So that becomes a low overhead if I actually have Donnie ready. So it's low, overhead, and it all combos. So as you can see, it becomes quite a good mix-up. So instead, if your opponent knows that you're constantly going for Donnie, you can go for Mikey, and Mikey will come in on a skateboard, and it is a low attack. So the mix-up here becomes off of any combo string, because all the turtles also have this overhead attack as well as this low. Yes, these turtles are 50-50 machines. Once they end up getting conditioned to block one or the other, you can mix them up with the opposite. So if you're constantly using Donnie, you can suddenly throw Mikey out there, and then it's like, whoa, there's a low there, I need to remember that. And then they get scared that you're going to throw that out there. That tool in itself makes Leo probably one of the stronger turtles, just because he's able to keep so many different characters in check in so many different ways. In addition to having, you know, the full screen mids and the cross ups when it comes to dive kicks and when it comes to the shell shock. So all of those options that Leo has make him good. Now granted, other characters can do similar things, but what I think also makes him good, well, of the 4 turtles, is his range. Of the other turtles, every single character of the turtles has a string where if you press back and you press either standing 2 or 1, so triangle or square, they start using their weapons for normals. So in this case, for Leo, he has 2 specific strings that I want to talk about. So back 2, 3, which is that, and back 1, 2. Now online, and I'm going to give a little shout out here, I've even seen Honeybee's gameplay with Leo, or at least some of it. For some reason, players are continuing to use back 2, 3, and I understand why, that, you know, it's a multi-hitting, you know, mid into another mid, that's great. But overall, the range-wise, you don't get too much range from it. I mean, you do get a decent amount here and there, but the more important string, in my opinion, is this back 1 string in itself. This thing hits so far away, it is so crazy with how much range that this move actually has. And it's only 16 frames. Now granted, you're like, only 16? Isn't that kind of slow? In a wider span of things, yes, but if I'm playing the footsie game and I suddenly throw that out there, I'm safe from such a far distance that even if my opponent tries to throw a button afterwards, I can check them again with this, unless they're a character like Black Adam or Superman who defy the game and have an 8 frame normal that reaches like almost half screen. Gotta love it. But anyway, so the reason why these strings, in my opinion, are a little bit more valuable is because you're able to play that footsie game and still cancel into full combo punishes, whether it be off of this uppercut or whether it be off of Donnie if you have them loaded, because both will still combo into whatever you want. The other thing that that Leo ends up really having is when it comes to that same footsie game, I started messing around with the hitboxes. So some of the turtles do have inconsistent hitboxes, and what I mean by that is at different ranges, their same normals can have different effects. So for example, every turtle has this 1-1 string. But for some reason, in certain distances and stuff, even though physically it looks like I have to be basically touching them, like my foot is inside of Michelangelo's foot right now, in order for me to hit this, I actually don't have to be that close. It has an invisible hitbox on it, so physically, I'm not actually touching them with my fist, but for some reason, some of the time, it does connect. I haven't figured out completely why this works. There's other characters that do have this, Superman being one of them on like jump 1 and his forward 2, 3. For some reason, characters in the game don't actually have to physically touch you sometimes, and that's something I feel like NRS may need to work on. Please give them a shout out here if they can fix some of those hitbox issues with top tier characters, and as of right now, the turtles. So the other moves that I want to talk about that do this as well, I believe, are the back 1. So this move, even though it is his sword coming out, and yes, it's supposed to have range, I don't think that at certain distances it is supposed to connect, and there are some instances where it does, where it suddenly looks like it has more range. That was one of them right there. I mean, right now I'm almost half screen away from my opponent, and I nearly just clipped him into a full combo punish, basically. So with this turtle, It's more so about footsie game, trying to not necessarily outzone, but catch your opponent pushing buttons using your very fast trade options. Definitely want to use those a ton. And then whenever you know that you can go in for some mix-ups, you can always end up coming right up close, and he has a pretty decent down one, to be honest. It's only got a weird hitbox on some characters though, because it does not angle downwards. It kind of angles upwards towards their chest, which is the only thing about the down one that I'd say is kind of bad, because like in this distance, this down one needs to be connecting and it doesn't for some reason. Other characters, their down one, some of them can reach even from this far, aka Supergirl. Huh. Thank God that got nerfed. But in this scenario, the other thing I want to talk about is their frames. So frames are what allows characters to move at certain speeds. It's basically what measures how fast they can move in the game. It's the measurement at which how slow or fast a move is done, and it also shows how fast or how slow a character can recover after you have done a certain move, whether it be on block or whether it be on hit. So for example, if we went to the move list and I go over to the combo attack section, I already said this previously, that every turtle has this square square and square square triangle string. Well, the nice thing about square square and square X is that if you look at the block advantage area, it tells you that it's +2 frames on block. That's what the block advantage means. So if I go up to my opponent and I press this and they are squatting and they even block that attack, I still get to push buttons before they do. I'm guaranteed at least a down one. Because my down one, or at least with Leo and I believe all the other turtles, is 7 frames. So my 7 frame down one is now the equivalent of a 5 frame attack. The only way that someone can challenge me is if they have either a 4 or 5 frame attack to tie with my down one. So the only characters that have moves like that in the game that I know of are some super moves like Flash's, who was like 3 frames full screen, and that may not be worth it if they're both still at their first health bar. So in most case scenarios, people are going to have to eat that down one. If they try to push buttons or anything, that down one is going to guaranteed hit them. Same thing works for this string as well, even though this is also a very good hard knockdown situation. So hypothetically, if you wanted to, you could go 1-1, 1-3, if they respect the first 1-1. What's nice about the 1-3 though is that if you finish a combo with it, so even if it's just off of a down 2 and you end up, using this string, it can set up situations where your jump over 3, and this is with all the turtles, your jump over 3 can end up crossing up. The jumping 3 from all the turtles is amazing when it comes to a move that is done in the air. It has a hitbox even in their crotch, from foot to foot, even a little bit outside of their feet if you end up pressing the button at the right time. So I also wanted to mess with damage because some people were wondering, well, what are some of the conversions that you can get with these turtles, whether it be in the corner or mid-screen. So a lot of people, for example, they may struggle with converting off of the meter burn version of this uppercut attack that Leo has. Well, the easiest option that I would say if you're really struggling with converting for bigger damage is practice just doing a shell shock right after that meter burn attack, because it's guaranteed to connect even from a further range. So that's what it looks like, just so that you guys out there at home know. And you can meter burn it if you want. I wouldn't suggest it, because at least you already have the next knockdown for your opponent, but it's just another option that you have. For me personally, I want to practice ending up consistently getting this. This seems to be a little bit difficult because the range and the size of the character that you're fighting does take a factor that you need to consider whenever trying this. But if you end up at a decent range connecting this uppercut, you can actually land this back 1-2 string into his sword fury or shredded, which is the name of the move. So if I was to do something like this, oh, I think my opponent's gonna jump. Uppercut, that string, for example, it just whiffed right there from a different range. If I do connect it, I can actually end up linking a full combo like that, exactly what I just did there. Now granted, it was only 207 damage, but these turtles are meter building machines, and with Leo, for example, he has situations where if I set my opponent to block and I have a bar of meter, I can basically end up telling my opponent that I'm going to end up chipping you out to death, basically an Aquaman version. So just to show you an example of what that would look like, and this is, I'm putting my opponent in the corner just because I don't want them to accidentally scoot back or something and then something whiff. It's the only reason why I'm doing this. So if I do 1-1 and my opponent knows that I'm plus and they choose to respect it, and I do it again, and then they choose to respect it again, I can go for this string because they want to not push buttons, even though it is 15 frames. Technically they can poke out of it, that is part of the mix-up. Mid-screen, however, it would push me like away a little bit, so a lot of characters' normals might whiff from that distance. I have this amazing normal from this distance that'll beat out a lot of people. If I end up canceling this string on block into this Sword Fury, if you look at Mikey's health bar, just from chip damage alone, I'm taking a good, say, around 5%-ish, and that's with no meter. The problem with this is that if I try to do this on block, it is negative like 30 something, so it's full combo punishable. So the next question is obviously, okay, well if that's not viable, well then what are you supposed to do? Well, the thing is that it is viable, but you need some meter, and you'll be doing even more chip damage if you do use this meter. It also catches people that are trying to push buttons, jump, or backdash. This meter burn probably does around close to 5-7%, somewhere in that range, and you're able to do it in chip damage situations, so you can end up really making people hurt without really ending up using too much meter. So just as an example, I'm going to set the meter for myself to be on normal, and I'm going to purposely meter burn an attack just so that there's 1 bar less, so that you can see how much meter that Leo is building in this situation. So I'm going to burn a bar first, just so that you guys see that I'm 1 bar short, and now let's say I start for my plus frame attacks. So overall I spent a bar, but in that process of spending that 1 bar, so I'm talking about the period at which I got down to 3 bars, I rebuilt about 3/4 of that same bar that I just spent. And if I want to, I can back off, throw more of these, you know, throw Mikey out there, and I actually do build meter for every time that one of those is blocked, which is also kind of ridiculous in my opinion. Now when it comes to mid-screen mix-ups, these characters are crazy when it comes to mix-ups up close just because of this move in itself. This move by itself is a combo starter launching that can cross up on block off of any string that you want to use at any given time, and your opponent has to read it. It can be interrupted in some situations, similar to Flash's Sonic Pound, but your opponent has to read it. So it's a guessing game going every single which way. So with Leo, for example, I'm just going to do it just as an example. He has this multi-hitting low, or not multi-hitting low, but a low attack that I can cancel from this attack on block into any special move. So in this case, instead of say I'm going for chip damage, I want to open up my opponent, I can go into this low and meter burn a shell shocked, and that will be an overhead attack that will be combo right there on the spot. From a certain range though, it can not only hit same side, but it'll hit cross up side as well. It's got to be at a certain range, which is a little bit awkward. I'm going to reset my meter course again. So as you can see, when it comes to the potentials of each of these characters, they all excel at certain aspects. With Leo, it's definitely going to be this neutral game that he excels at very well. He's going to end up having these decent projectiles, he's going to have a pretty solid mix-up game, and I guess the last thing I want to talk about is just some damage, just for the fun of it. I've been messing around with what the most damage is with all the turtles. So if you have an interactable like this in the background, this is kind of required just for the fun of it. A lot of people, if they end up jumping on the wake up, so say that you end up landing this string and jumping over them, cross them up, and you have an interactable in the back, this is a pretty easy combo. It does use 2 bars a meter, but you're breaking 500 damage for it, so it can be worth it in my opinion. this is just a fun combo that I figured people would enjoy. Ta-da! 520 damage, just like that. Not even that hard of a combo, just simple, basic, does what it's supposed to do. And it can lead you up into whatever else you want. Of course, you don't have to finish it with the Shell Shock. I was just it's a fast attack, and I could guarantee finishing the combo. And that was only for 2 bars a meter. So, figured that I'd at least show off some Leonardo and what all he can do today. If you guys have any other questions, please leave them down in the comments for Leo and him specifically. The next videos that I will be releasing will be for the rest of the turtles. If you liked what you saw here, please give a like and subscribe. Hope to see you guys in the next one. Later.